You know, Guy, I don't even like to call it indigenous or native, or I really just think it's being human. You know, I had this conversation with a group of early learning practitioners just recently. And what I know is we're human. And our only purpose on earth was to enjoy what creation has given us and to give thanks and to share our knowledge. So, is it indigenous or is it just human? So, I asked myself that. In North America, we're familiar with the land. We always were. We've been here the longest. I don't know how long. Some people say 2,000 years. I don't know. But I'm saying we've been here for a very long time. What I do know is that our spirit exists here. So, for whatever that is, there might be knowledge that is known because of our DNA, because of eating the foods that we ate, the way our body functions, because of North America, because of, you know, what that might look like. But I don't know that we're any different than any other human people. So we pray for the water, we pray for the land, we have ceremony. But when I look at other peoples, they have those same practices. They may not recognize them the same. They may not celebrate them the same. There might be a disconnect because their identity comes from Europe or another land, and they're learning this new way. But I believe that Indigenous knowledge is everywhere, anywhere you go. And you know, we talked about truth. So north, south, east, west, red, yellow, black, and white. You know, as far as I know, we all eat, we digest food the same. You know, I don't know that there's any different, except that we practice what we know to the fullest. And that is in ceremony, we call it ceremony, but there's elements of ceremony where we feast, where we share stories, where we, and in sharing stories, we're just sharing knowledge so that we can live here in a good way. So the good life we talk about. So whatever that is, you know, and looking at Indigenous ways, we'll start with the good life, is that, you know, we say in the good life is the early years of the children when they receive diapering and food and clothing, they're learning that way of life. And then we have a fast life, right? So we're practicing now what parents have taught us. And then we move into the wandering life where we go out and we wander and we learn even more information so that we can, again, come together, partnership, create beings, plant, do, and it's just a cycle. It's never ending, and it just goes around and around again. It's just different people. But I have to believe that's the pathway for all people. They just don't know. And I know this because I've spoken to many people that wouldn't say they're Indigenous from North America. Fair enough, but they're Canadian, they grew up here. And I'll say, what's different? There's nothing. Acknowledgement. How about that? Acknowledgement is what it is. So when we acknowledge that we're all human, we acknowledge that we have ways of being collectively and individually, and how we bring that together in peace, in doing what is good for all beings, all our relations, that's what it is. So I don't see it as something mystical. I don't know that you're going to study it and be Indigenous, but what I do know is you're going to want to be honest. You're going to want to seek the truth, live the truth, your truth, when you find where you're going. I believe that you're going to want to share, because those are Indigenous ways that we share, and that we respect one another. Respect is a big word. I grew up, and all my family would say, my elders would say, respect, you know, your elders, respect your brothers and sisters, respect. And I thought, do I only respect the elders and my brother? Like, who am I respecting? I didn't even know what respect was. And as I grew, I learned that you know, it was about seeing things differently. So it's not enough to know my position. I need to know your position, right? So in looking at this, Indigenous knowledge, it's just truth. And it really is a pathway to peace within yourself, within your family, within your community, within your nations. And I think when people, I have to imagine this because it's not written, but when newcomers came upon that way of being where we had peace in this land, and I don't even know why I say land is, it wasn't just the people. I think even the plants live in harmony. I think even the animals live in harmony. You know, and that by humans practicing that, it makes sense. So that energy of living the good life, it goes everywhere because it's our language. We say good things. People say, "Oh, well, you sound like you love every." I don't know that I know love because what an elder once told me, well, long time ago, was that's just a byproduct of living the good life. That's what you see. We're not love seekers. We just want to do good things. So when you do good things, people say, "Oh, that feels good." Then it makes sense. So that, again, back to celebration, but that's what I believe it is. So, you know, Indigenous knowledge is, it's everywhere. I see it everywhere. I had one time well, I'll say his name, Terry Dockstader is a boss of mine in the Friendship Center movement. And I was exploring Indigenous knowledge. And we're talking now traditional ways of, which would be a longhouse or Medewin Lodge. And there are certain practices and disciplines that you must respect. There's no doubt. And I don't want to get away from that. There's a reason, seasonal, the way we grew things, because it made sense to protect the lands, to protect the waters. But I was looking at exploring with youth what was Indigenous, and are we all going to learn lacrosse? Because not everybody wanted to play lacrosse. And so I went, obviously, to my supervisor then, Terry Dockstader. I said, "Terry, if we do this, is this Indigenous? Like, will the community be okay with that?" And you know what he said to me? "If the children are Indigenous and the children love to do it, then it must be Indigenous." So that's Indigenous knowledge.